Okay, I think we are live now. Hey everyone, welcome to CS Dojo, and we have a guest today with us. His name is Gaurav Shen, and he's
Hi.
also known as GKCS. Hey everyone, say hi to everyone,
Hey, hi,
GKCS.
hi everyone. So, hi YK, hi everyone in the chat.
Okay, so today, you know, we're gonna do a 23 minutes of interview, and then 7 minutes of audience Q&A with you guys. And a little bit about Gaurav. He has a YouTube channel about competitive programming. I'm gonna put a link, to his YouTube channel in the description below. And just in case you're curious, he's from Mumbai. So today, we're gonna talk about what is competitive programming, why should people care about it, and then how should you prepare for it. So let me just get started. Could you first introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey everyone, I'm Gaurav, and so since the past 4 years, I've been making um, blogs and small videos on comparative programming, and it's been some time now. But I think problem solving is one of the key things if you're looking for um, not just interviews, but in general, getting better at computer science. So I'm really passionate about problem solving, and algorithms and data structures is what you need for that. So that's what I like to pursue. I mean, understanding.
Okay. And just curious, how did you get started with like problem solving in general?
So problem solving, it was there since I think the first year of my college education, and although the problems then were much simpler, but I had friends who used to pick up stuff like traveling salesman or something like that, and we would try to solve that, although it had been solved by many other people already. But the excitement is when you are trying to tell a computer what you want it to do, and also after thinking a lot. So that's how problem solving came in for me. I think in first year or second year.
Okay, so you basically got started by solving problems that had already been solved, and then
Absolutely.
you moved on to like newer problems, I guess.
Yeah. So the popular versions of problems were how I started off with. And later on, we went into a little more specialized things like comparative programming and stuff.
Okay. And could you explain what is programming? I mean, what is competitive programming?
So comparative programming, it's a little like, let's say, chess, where it's a mind sport where you have problem solving, which is put at the core of the comparative programming thing is problem solving. And for that, you need algorithms and data structure knowledge. Um, it's done in usually internet sites because you need a lot of people who want to, you know, like, participate in that contest. So computer programming is a mind sport, which requires you to know about algorithms and data structures. It's focused on problem solving, and people seem to love it.
Right. And could you give like a maybe a really simplified example of what a problem might look like?
For example, I could have something like Mr. X wants to go from A to B, and there are some 7 cities between A and B. So he may or may not choose to visit all the cities, but find me the shortest path between them. Now, the algorithm that you might think about here is breadth first search or Dijkstra's, or maybe you might go for a brute force.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, when you find the shortest path and you print that out, that will be a solution. And comparative programming is about getting a solution and getting it in a short amount of time. When I
Right.
say short amount of time for the computer.
So I guess you submit a solution in code,
Yeah,
and then whoever has the most efficient code wins. Is that the idea?
I'm sorry. I missed the last bit. Sorry.
Okay, so I was just asking, whoever has the most efficient code wins, right?
Correct. Actually, it's more about if you have the right solution and if
Mm.
it's fast enough. So there'll be some threshold set for time limits and correctness.
Okay.
And if both of them are there, then you both score equal points. But yes, you're right. There are some questions which have partial marking. So that's more interesting because if you have the fastest solution, that is the best solution. That's considered the best solution.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I guess some problems are like, as long as you solve the problem with a certain amount of efficiency, you don't have to be the fastest one.
Correct. So when you look at an algorithm, it has some sort of order complexity. So if a person has an algorithm which has, let's say, order n complexity or order n log n, as long as it's not hitting something like n square, the the comparative programming site will allow your question to pass through. It won't
Okay.
time out.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to take too long and it's
Right.
not going to work.
Yeah. So what GKCS was talking about just now is called something called Beagle notation, and it's just a way of expressing how how complex your algorithm is.
Right.
So, what kind of experience do you have with competitive programming?
Comparative programming, it actually started after I got placed in this company called Morgan Stanley, and at that time I was completely free. So I had nothing to do except solve problems or just enjoy myself. So um, that's when I started off with comparative programming. It it took me a while to actually understand what the problems mean or how do I break it down to some math. Take a problem statement and then break it down to a mathematical statement and then just solve it through code.
Right.
But yeah, that's how I started.
Okay. So I guess you were already working, right, when you got started with competitive programming.
I had about 3 months before I joined my first company. So I was in college then, but yeah, you can say I was almost working because I wasn't studying at least.
Okay. Would you say most people who work on competitive programming are students or not students?
Most who work on computer programming in India are students who are looking for placements, which the trend is right now. Um, Very strong for students who are looking for placements to get into computer programming. The reason for that is I think it makes your interviews a little easier, the algorithmic
Right.
interviews. But
Yeah.
I think companies will be shifting from asking too many algorithmic interviews soon enough. They'll focus more on projects and your internships. So yeah, computer programming is actually a sport, but people use it for some good purposes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that leads to my next question, which is why should people care about competitive programming?
Well, in the current climate, it's such that computer programming is helping people get better in problem solving, and problem solving is a key part of interviews. Problem solving can also be a key part of your job, assuming that you have something which is a little research oriented. So if you know a lot about algorithms and data structures, you can just look at a problem and you can say that, fine, I'm not so concerned about the computer science or the problem solving about it. I'm more concerned about how do I fix these modules and get the solution directly.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen really smart people. They are really good at comparative programming. What they can do is they can take a complex problem, break it into small parts, and then just um, solve the problem immediately.
Right. So I understand that you're currently working as a software developer in Mumbai.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the knowledge and the skills you gain through competitive programming, does that help in any way with your job?
So it's a double-edged sword. The first thing is yes, it does help me solve problems, and it's also something that gives you a lot of confidence when you're speaking with your team about a problem, and you can just think about big annotations and immediately make sure that you're not making a big mistake. If you're too deep into computer programming, what I've noticed is that uh, students think too much algorithmically rather than in the real world. So in the
Right.
real world, if you need to read a file, you don't need all those algorithms. You just need just a file reader.
Yeah.
And for that you need reliability. You need multi-threading, concepts which are more focused on computer science than in this very specific thing of algorithms.
Right. So competitive programming is mostly about algorithms and data structures.
Right.
Okay. And if people want to get into competitive programming, how should they get started with it?
So there are sites like CodeChef, Topcoder, HackerEarth. There are quite a few sites. I can just mention them over here. And what they do is they ask you questions, and if you solve them,
Right.
then well, you get some points.
Yeah. Could you
As you
maybe
scroll,
do a
yeah,
screen share and show everyone what those sites look like?
I'll just open that one.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned Top Chef, Top Coder, Hacker
Top Coder,
Earth.
yes.
Yeah.
Hacker, CodeChef, and there are quite a few sites. The newer sites are more and more interesting. They keep getting better. But
Okay.
I'll just do the screen share now.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Share. So this is what I was talking about.
Top Coder.
Top Coder is one of the sites. You can also have a look at CodeChef. This is really popular in India, and it's also doing pretty well internationally. And there's,
So
of course,
would you recommend those websites instead of like other kinds of competitions?
I would say Code Forces is probably the best if you're looking for a website to start off with,
Okay.
because it's highly reliable and it also has a lot of people. The community is not so friendly, so to speak. So if you're looking for just starting off, then you can do it yourself. I mean, at home you can read up a little algorithms and start, which has a very friendly community. Top Coders community, yeah, that's also fine. But Code Forces seems to be
Right.
the best site at this point in time.
Okay. What's the difference between those websites?
So Code Forces has a community which is really old. It's also very very strong. The kind of editorials you'll see here are pretty useful. Some of the concepts are really advanced. So what happens is, because people have been programming here for a long time, they don't want simple stuff to be posted in the editorials. That's the reason why I would say for a beginner, this site is not very, you know, friendly.
Right.
CodeChef, on the other hand, is very focused on getting students to do well in programming. So going to people in their 10th grade or ninth grade and explaining to them what programming is and how it can be so much fun. While Top Coder seems to be a site which almost every interviewer refers to at some point of time. So the problems here are good, but you may not find a very strong community here. So it's up to us to choose which one. I personally started off with CodeChef.
Okay. And how about something like ACM programming competitions? Do you know about them?
ACM is, yeah, I do know about them. ACM ICPC is probably what people are talking about. It's a contest which is held in colleges. Almost all the colleges in India get together and they have their best representatives go out there and fight for them. So ACM ICPC is fun. If you can make a team, then please do so. And there's the world finals, and if you win that, then you have lots of prizes.
Right. And I guess those websites, the advantage of that is you don't need a team to work on them.
Absolutely, you can start off right now, and you can also practice. And there's lots of advantages why you would want to go there. That's like the gym, and this ACM ICPC is literally the Olympics of computer programming.
Right. And how should people prepare for like solving those problems on those websites and ACM and ICPC?
So if you have a data structure and algorithm teacher in your college, I would say that you can start off there just by asking them some advice. But if you're completely alone, like most of us are usually, you can just read blog posts on Code Forces, CodeChef. All of these sites have something like tutorials on how to start off with computer programming.
Okay.
And if you, in fact, you don't even need that. You can just read up a little on algorithms and try to solve some problems. Interview questions are fine. Then once you're slightly good, you can get into computer programming full force.
Right. So I think you mentioned like interview questions several times.
Right.
So I guess in case people don't know about them, a lot of like software companies ask these algorithms and data structures related questions.
Right.
So I think these interview questions are sort of similar in nature as competitive programming questions.
Absolutely, and that's
Okay.
that's one of the interesting things these days. Computer programming is so. computer programming is a little more advanced in some ways, but it can be much simpler in some ways. So interview questions are somewhere around medium difficulty when it comes to programming contests.
Hmm.
And so interview questions also have this sort of, you need some insights to actually solve the problem. While computer programming, you need insights. Sometimes you need just a brute understanding of algorithms sometimes. And they are highly related though. I can see questions from interviews going into computer programming and the same thing from the other
Okay.
side.
Okay, nice. And are there any like common mistakes people make when they get started with competitive programming?
I think they take it too seriously. They think it's really, really big and they won't be able to solve it. It happened to me too. It happens to everyone. Just don't stop. Just keep going. It's similar to how programming is done. It's scary in the start. And then once you have stuff working for you, it seems very easy. And there are always plateaus, always barriers, but you can break them.
Right. So when you say like people get serious about it, I guess they get too stressed about it.
Yes, they start thinking about, oh my god, my rank last time was 30 and this time it's 45 and I'm not improving, and what do I do? um, don't think about it that way. Think about it that, were you able to solve a new problem this time, or were you able to learn something new this time?
Right.
So what's going to end up happening is you're always learning something. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about computer programming is there's a contest, so you have this inherent incentive to learn more. And that's how people end up getting good at algorithms.
Yeah, sounds good. So I mean, I love what you say about like not being stressed and focusing on like learning,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like it's a pretty easy thing to do, and like an easy mistake to make like in other areas of life too.
Absolutely. So when I joined my college, I didn't know a thing about computer science. I didn't know how a computer even works. Well, even now I don't. I mean, all the way. But um, what I'm talking about is I had never written a single line of code, and it was scary in the start. But if you have good teachers and if you have an attitude that I want to learn, it really helps. Plus, if you have a calm mind, yeah, like you said, no
Nice.
stress.
Right. So someone's asking about Python for competitive programming, and yeah, I was actually like, I wanted to ask you like more in general, like what
Right.
programming languages should people use for competitive programming?
Well, I would love to say that any programming language is fine, but most of the sites are pretty old. So what they tend to focus on is speed. So I won't deny that a C++ programmer has an advantage compared to a Python programmer in a programming site. But interestingly, that gap is shrinking. So you can start off with Python, definitely, and you can then move on to some other language which you feel is fast enough while being simple enough.
Right. So I guess if you write code in C++, it
Right?
might be faster and you might have some advantage that way.
Yes. So what the programming platforms are trying to do are give different time limits for different source languages. So if you're writing code in C++, they'll give you just 1 second. But if you're writing code in Python, they'll give you 3 seconds. So that's the way they're trying to level the playing field. But even now, there is some advantage that C++ has because it's so
Okay.
tremendously fast. But
Right.
Python is a really good language to start off with. In fact, I'm finding it really interesting.
Okay. How about Java?
Java is what I use, and it's quite fast. So you get about 2 seconds if C++ gets 1 second. And I mean, I use Java in my job, and I use Java in computer programming, so it's something that I really like.
Right. So if someone's like, maybe that person knows like a few languages and they're like, okay, I want to get into competitive programming. What would you like? Which language would you recommend that they get started with?
If they know a few languages, C++,
Okay.
but I'll just warn them beforehand that C++ is going to be complicated. So compared to
Hmm.
Python, so
Yeah. Um. So I think someone was asking earlier how long it takes to prepare for these competitive programming sites.
you can start off immediately. The first question, the easiest question on CodeChef is printing the number 42. instead of printing "Hello World," which is the first program that
Okay.
we ever write.
Right.
So it's actually easy. So the answer to everything is 42, and that's what the question is based on. And
Yeah,
then
that's a joke from somewhere, right?
yeah, that's I think that spaceship thing. So yeah, it's easy, and then you can go on leveling up. The moment you hit some place where you feel like, no, I don't understand this at all, you can always read some tutorials or editorials and get back to problem solving. So it's a continuous process where you're climbing up a ladder, and if you
Okay.
find some place difficult,
Right.
you can do it.
So I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but would you say people get started with Code Chef or a different site? Like people should
Well,
get started with Code Chef.
if you're just starting off, I would suggest CodeChef. CodeChef is a very
Mhm.
friendly community, and it has some really good problems.
Right.
It also gives you the luxury of taking your time to solve the problem because it has these long contests, 10 days long. While Code Forces seems to be a little advanced because you have to solve the problems very fast, and yeah, they're short contests.
Okay. So when you say fast, do you mean like one day?
uh, 3 hours.
3 hours. Oh, that's pretty
Three
fast.
hours. Yeah.
So that must be
It
kind of
sometimes
stressful then.
absolutely it becomes a real problem when people are just reading the question quickly and trying to think of the algorithm while they're reading the question. So it's fun to see that. But yeah, if you want a little more relaxed environment and if you're looking for a really nice learning environment, I would suggest CodeChef.
Yeah. So when you were like working on more of those competitive programming problems, what did you enjoy about them?
I think my favorite point was when I actually solved it
Right.
and got that green tick that yes, your answer is correct.
Hmm.
But the second most favorite thing would be to learn something new. Things that I didn't know about, I would just go read and then convert that to code and actually have a machine verifying my answers. That was a beautiful thing, and I thought that I was getting smarter every day. That's actually my favorite thing.
Okay. And what would be sort of an example of, um, what you
Okay.
learned that way?
Um, so I didn't know about dynamic programming, and I was always afraid about coding in dynamic programming. For some reason, I found it to be really complicated and impossible to do. And there was this one question on CodeChef. I remember I took about 4 days to solve it, where I somehow recursively solved the question instead of using dynamic programming. Like I somehow got away from it, but it was a really nice alternative solution to the problem. And later on, of course, when I learned dynamic programming, I thought that what the hell am I doing? But this was something that really taught me that you can solve problems if you're really focused and if you want to.
Nice. Okay, so I think we're gonna start audience Q&A soon. But if you haven't yet, guys, make sure to follow Facebook on CS Dojo for more live streams because that's really where I announce them. And you can find GKCS's YouTube channel in the description below. So make sure to check that out. So send in your questions, guys. So I don't see any good
Okay.
questions right now.
Huh.
So could you tell us about like what you do with your YouTube channel?
So my YouTube channel is focused on algorithms and data structures that helps you solve problems. And I try to get out one video every week on some new concept. But when there's a contest, I get a little more active. So I try to post many solutions to the problems that contest has just had.
Okay. And
Okay,
could you, yeah, do you see any good questions?
I think Bhavuk Sharma has asked a good question. He says that can CP be done in part time? And the answer is yes, you can. I mean, I still do it while working. So it takes about, I mean, it's up to you. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, I gotta give a shout out to this person because this person send something in Japanese, he's
Okay.
just he's saying "konchas," which means like "what's up."
Aha.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay. So YK, what do you think is the best website for learning a programming language?
So I always give the same advice. I would get started with something like Code Academy or Free Code Camp.
Okay.
Let me type it in so people can see too. Free Code Camp and Code Academy.
Okay.
And that's for basics. So after that, I would say like something like lynda.com or Pluralsight or Udemy, like one of those video sites. But
Uh,
do you have any thoughts on that?
yeah, I think those are really nice. There's Udacity also is a site which does teach, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's free.
yeah, I think
And
Udacity is pretty good too.
and otherwise, there's again, I think Geeks for Geeks, but it doesn't really teach you about programming as such. But it
Right.
can teach you about problem solving. So yeah, that's not programming though.
Yeah, Geeks for Geeks is good too. Like when you Google for something, like a lot of times Geeks for Geeks shows up.
Right.
Someone's asking for a new programmer, Ruby on Rails is good. I would say Ruby is good, but Ruby on Rails is like it's not the most friendly thing to learn. Like I had this experience where I started learning Ruby on Rails and it does a lot of things automatically.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I
in
would
yeah, please go
no
on.
go ahead.
So the times that I've used it, we are writing build processes. We are thinking about compiling the code and then deploying it. So that's when we use Ruby on Rails. But yeah, you're right. It's about programming. No.
Yeah. I think so. Prodigy is asking, what can you say about ACM training style? I guess what he or she means is like, how should you prepare for it?
Well, yes. If you're preparing for ACM, it's probably in your second year or your third year. So what you can do before that is make sure that the coursework in algorithms and data structures is completed in a really good way. So if you do that in a strong way, that'll give you a strong basis to learn more specialized algorithms. So that'll be fun, and then you can perform much better. Also, one final thing about ACM ICPC is that it's a contest for colleges. So some colleges are really good in terms of the math culture that they have, and some colleges are don't really have any culture of ACM. So if you want some advice, you can ask seniors in the other colleges also. They'll help you.
Okay, how would you find like those seniors in other colleges?
There's the sites here, which is CodeChef, CodeForces. They are always roaming around and uh, commenting on editorials if they're good, if they need improvements, and then you can just message them directly, and those guys tend to be the seniors, either from India. Sometimes they're also from outside India, and they're really helpful.
Nice. So someone's asking me about creating an Android app,
Uh-huh.
but this person doesn't know how to code. I mean, I would get started with Java
Uh-huh.
because you can build Android apps with Java. So that's pretty much it. Like go to Code Academy, lynda.com and learn Java.
Uh-huh. Java, yes, my favorite language.
Right. Why is Java your favorite language?
I started off with it, and some of the things like garbage collection and multi-threading were concepts that I really liked, and then it kind of stuck. I'm not sure if there are better languages per se, but yeah, Java is something that I'm really comfortable with.
Okay.
Python is my second favorite.
Okay. So what do you like about garbage collection in Java? And what is garbage collection? So, just in case
Right.
people don't know it.
Sure. So garbage collection is when we create an object, we want that object to be removed from memory when when we no longer need it. And Java does that for you automatically. While C++, you actually need to go to that memory location and free that up. So that's a little complicated. So according to me, the lesser you burden you put in the on the programmer, the faster he can code, and the faster he can code, the faster results you get. So
Hmm.
that's the reason why I like Java.
And how come you like Java more than Python?
Uh, the honest answer to that will be that I'm accustomed to Java, but Python seems like a scripting language, so you can't really design very big systems with Python.
Right.
When you're going for software engineering, it becomes a real pain to actually have Python code running that slow. And there's also the concept of multi-threading, which is not so good in Python.
Okay. So Java's better at handling multi-threading.
Multi-threading. So multi-threading is for all the viewers. Multi-threading is you having 10 or 15 computers, and you can run one function, one process on all of them together, so that it's done faster.
Hmm. So it's the idea is you have a problem to solve, and you can divide it into multiple computers, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay. I think that's time. Do you have anything to say to everyone?
Oh yeah. Best of luck. And I find this channel YK very interesting. The tutorials you have made on Python, and yeah, people can learn a lot about programming. So my main message would be you can learn programming easily. So don't take it too seriously, and have fun.
Okay, awesome. So thanks everyone for coming here. We have like 326 viewers now, so we did it, guys. And next time we can do more. If I do more live streams, like I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it, any more live streams. But thanks
Oh, okay.
everyone for your, messages and everything.
Right.
So
Thanks, guys.
yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye everyone.
Bye.